As we go on, we remember all the time we spent together?
Had together, spent
Had
together,
or spent? We're
had
going to
to, spent
eventually figure
together.
that out.
I don't think it's spent, but it probably should be, right?
Right. But Mac, today we are recording this episode live to tape in front of a big old studio audience.
Yes.
Probably hear them laughing all the time. Oohing and ahhing at the marvel that is Mac and Goo. But it is the final day of November, the final day of Movember.
Yep.
And it just dawned on me today that I should shave my mustache.
Yep. I shaved mine prior to a wedding I had a couple weeks ago. Yours is going strong, though. Yours looks like almost wings of an angel. It's so large.
Yeah, mine right now might be the longest it's ever been, and it is in my mouth.
Oh, you haven't trimmed it at all?
If you start trimming it, then it's going to take hours because you take a little bit off this end, a little bit off that end.
Okay.
And I've been doing that for years. I said this time I'm not even going to trim it. I'm just going to shape it, and that's it. Whatever's hanging over my lips, that's just. But now I kind of have to call it quits.
So when you go to the Baba,
Yeah.
do you have him trim you up on the face?
Oh my God, no way. That's an extra like $10.
Oh, but it's so satisfying. And they can get it
Look
even.
At Mac over here. He has money just to waste on barber shaving his face.
Well, they're already shaving my head, so I'm coming in at the low price of like $25-$30. I can afford another $5, $10, $15, but every once in a while I'll have them do the hot towel shave. Okay, it's dynamite.
Actually, that's a good point here is you are bald.
Yes.
So when you go to the barbershop, do you pay for a normal haircut or just for a shave?
Yeah, I basically pay for whatever their bottom one is. It's like the cheapest one on the menu. I only go I probably go every third time. So I'll shave my head and I'll keep up with it. And then every once in a while I get lazy. It grows too long. And I don't feel like doing it at home. So I'll go to the barber.
So yes, I will get back in my cage, zookeeper. I will once again live in a society and I will take this cookie duster down because I've had enough.
All right. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Shut
so
up, David.
next episode, next news dump on Monday, don't be alarmed. Don't shit your pants when you see this beautiful ghoulish face again.
By the way, very yet another again, very successful Movember for Ryan Davey of the hashtag Dork Podcast.
Congratulations and good work by him.
One goo, three, yeah. Goo. Just three. Goo. King of Queens. Goo. Meryl Streep. Entertainment.
I'm Goo.
And I'm Mac.
And we are the Mac and Goo program. We bring you friendship.
Yep. And today we're going to be bringing you some of the things we've watched over the last couple months that we haven't gotten a chance to talk about.
It's been literally months, like 6 months.
We made a list and we have 14 things. So we have 2 episodes here. We're doing half of them roughly today. We'll do the more relevant ones, I guess, here, and then get to the ones that no one cares about in another episode.
What have you been watching lately? Keep it short, tell me right now.
Thank you, Norris the Turble. I think I did the rundown pretty good by doing something that we both saw.
Mm-hmm.
I saw, you saw, both saw. I saw, you saw, both saw.
Little ping pong battle here. It's nice.
Yeah.
It'll be nice back and forth. Good. We'll be starting off today with The Killer. The Killer is currently streaming on Netflix. This is a rated R action, adventure, and crime movie with a runtime of 118 minutes, just under 2 hours. On Roddy T's Goo, this is an interesting split. 86% from the critics, 59% from the audience. I think I understand exactly why the split is the way it is. On Metacritic, this is a 73. Mm-hmm. And Goo, this is a notable film, number one, because Michael Fassbender stars in it. Number two, it's a David Fincher film. Before I get to Fincher, this is written by Andrew Kevin Walker, Goo, and we would know him from Seven. He wrote the original script for Seven that Fincher ends up directing, of course. He also wrote 8mm, which he notoriously hates. That got bastardized by the studio and Joel Schumacher. That movie's not very good. And he also wrote Sleepy Hollow. That was maybe the year 2000. he's like barely done anything since then. So I wonder if this was like David Fincher was like, hey, I want to lull you back out, see if we could recreate that magic. This is nowhere near 7, let me say that. And of course, this is directed by Fincher. Goo, I think, I've obviously liked David Fincher. Dork just did an episode on him a few weeks ago. I think we might underrate how all-time great David Fincher is. Like, if you look at his resume, there's maybe 2, 3 directors that might have more, but like if you looked at his top 3 or 4 films, that's almost unrivaled by anyone. So he's did Alien 3, tough start for him, but then he's got 7, Fight Club, Panic Room, Lords of Dogtown, which is a very underrated one, Zodiac, Benjamin Button, The Social Network, Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, Gone Girl, and Mank. Now, out of those, I would say without a doubt, if you're doing a Mount Rushmore, you have to include 7, Fight Club, and The Social Network. 3 of the best movies. I have Fight Club a little bit lower than most, but The Social Network and 7 are 2 of the best movies of all time. It's not even like up for debate.
Gone Girl?
I love Gone Girl. That's probably my 4th.
I think Gone Girl is the 4th.
That's probably my 4th. I love that movie. I don't think this movie gets anywhere remotely near that top 4.
Yeah,
but it definitely feels like a David Fincher movie.
So let me, with the 59%, I think what we're dealing with here is expectations, right?
Yeah, you're expecting this big thrilling moment that you get in most Fincher films, and I think this one really lacks it. It doesn't quite have
You
it.
have 2 that get close, like 2 scenes that get close. And I also think that people went into this expecting maybe a John Wick-like character.
Which you get a little of. You get
but
a little
not
of other
really.
things.
Not
It's
really.
Like, here's how I've described the movie to no one, because no one's asked me about it. It's a little bit of like a John Wick meets Bourne Ultimatum. Elements of both of those movies, but not on the level of either of them.
Here's how I describe it to people. No one wants to talk to me about it. I'm on the subway holding up a sign saying, ask me about the killer. And no one fucking wants to do it.
Yeah, I'm like that guy with a sign on Instagram and fucking no one's asked me. It's been weeks.
Don't CC all on emails.
Synopsis, Goo. After a fateful near miss.
Reply all. Let's CC all.
After a fateful near miss, an assassin battles his employers and himself on an international manhunt he insists isn't personal. Mm-hmm. This stars Michael Fassbender as the titular killer. I like that they don't really give him a name at all through this movie. He just is what he is. Tilda Swinton as the expert, and I loved when she comes into the fold in this movie. She probably comes in maybe about halfway through, 2/3 through, something like that.
Mm-hmm. I would say 2/3.
Charles Parnell is the lawyer named Hodges. He's sort of like Fassbender's boss, for lack of a better term. And then Arliss Howard plays the client that plays a big part towards the conclusion of this movie. Like I said, Goo, there are elements of Fincher movies. There's a Bourne element in here, a bit Wickian of an element in here, but it never reaches the highs of really the best of those franchises. And on top of that, the ending of this movie is kind of underwhelming. It sets itself up for a big moment, and it does have a big moment kind of at the end of the second act. It just never hits the high you're expecting of it in the third act of this movie.
Yeah, so it does have the big action scene. Really only one big action scene here when he's going into the fella's house with the dog.
Awesome scene.
Yeah, that's an awesome scene. And then, of course, him working with the client. You get like that gory type of scene right there. And then the Swinton scene, that's really the standout moment of the movie. And even, not to spoil anything, but just how they go about the end of that scene. But what I like the most about this movie, and it's what Fassbender does best, is it's just this quiet, stress-inducing character, and you're watching and like you're waiting for something to happen. Now, it doesn't necessarily have that big payoff that, say, an Inglourious Bastards or even X-Men First Class. And obviously, those are just roles that he plays, but those are, big standouts that you have with him, and you're kind of waiting for that, like you said.
Yeah, this movie is really well acted, and 80% of the story is really well written. Mm-hmm. I just feel like he's probably had this idea or movie for years and never had an ending to it. And I feel like he said, you know what, I'm just going to make it without the ending that I usually have in my movies, because it is like you understand why Fassbender's character does what he does towards the end, but it's not satisfying whatsoever, especially for what happens throughout the film. So I don't know. It just feels uneven at the end, and maybe a fantastic finish bumps it up quite a bit, but it just I don't know. I really liked 85% of the movie, and then the last 10% I really didn't like.
So I have it roughly 33 hot dogs on the year. It's right around my dirty dozen of movies.
Okay.
I would put it close to Dead Reckoning, where I prefer the story in this more. I prefer the acting in this more, but Dead Reckoning has those big spectacle scenes. So what do you want?
Yeah, I liked Dead Reckoning quite a bit more.
Mhm.
I've got this 31 hot dogs. It's a good movie. I think this is hard to dislike, which is why I think the 59% is kind of bizarre. I could see not liking the end like myself, but not liking the whole thing seems like a mistake. This is my number 23 movie of 2023. And in that range there is like Blue Beetle, Totally Killer. This is just above like Blackberry and Theater Camp, other movies that like I enjoy to a certain degree, but aren't I don't know, hard to recommend to people, I guess.
All right, Mac, let's move on to the next. This is more of a television streaming special, and that is South Park joining the Panderverse.
Now,
Yes.
is this like Imagination Land level production? Like,
Yeah, no. So
okay,
what they
all right.
have, so I don't know if you remember this, but they had the 14 special deal with Paramount.
Oh, that's right. That's
Yes.
right. Okay.
And
So
this is one of
them.
those. Yes.
Gotcha.
TVMA, 48 minutes. I was recommended this, and I'll tell you right now, this is quality satire. This
Oh,
is
really?
very, very good. Yes.
Because sometimes they really miss the mark these days.
No, I know. Yeah.
I would say South Park, it's about 50-50 as far as miss or nails it these days.
So directed by Trey Parker, written by Trey Parker, Matt Stone, Brian Graydon, stars Trey Parker, Matt Stone, and April Stewart. And what this is Cartman keeps on having nightmares about him and his friends, him and his classmates being replaced by diverse women. And the whole 48 minutes is a great satire on Disney, Star Wars, Kathleen Kennedy, and then also the B storyline of Randy. He can't find a handyman because everyone now has their big jobs. But since the pandemic, most people don't know how to do anything anymore. So the handymen are all now billionaires, and there's no one to do these jobs anymore. And then what Randy needs to do is to go into a multiverse to change things around. So it takes on Disney, how multiverses are lazy, and then also how people can't do shit anymore. And all three of them, they hit on all of them.
No, that's good.
Yeah.
The only thing I'll say to that is I feel like multiverses are only lazy when they're done lazily or excused.
No,
lazy things.
but the whole thing is that so there's a point in this. I'm not going to spoil anything, but Randy is going through this multiversal portal, and all it does is change his clothes. So he just keep going, oh, now I'm wearing different kinds of shorts. Oh, I'm a Chiefs fan in this one. It's pretty good. Yeah.
Okay. All right. 48 minutes, so that's an easy watch.
Yeah, 48 minutes, easy watch, well paced. It's really funny. And I haven't watched a ton of South Park lately, but this was very good.
Yeah, I haven't watched South Park in a few years, so maybe I'll get that. That's on what is that on? What
It's on
streaming service?
Paramount Plus.
Paramount Plus. All right.
Paramount Plus.
Goo, next one up. You haven't seen this. I'll be interested to hear your opinion once you do, because I think this is one that we both were looking forward to after we saw the trailer. This is Bottoms. Bottoms is currently streaming on MGM Plus. If somehow you have that, I don't know a soul who does. I believe I paid $4.99 for it on Prime because I was looking forward to it.
I also put MGM Plus on this because I saw that, when you Google it, that's what it says.
Yeah.
Is MGM Plus a thing?
I've heard Keith talk about it. I don't know if it's a thing, but I've heard Keith talk about it before.
If it ain't free, it ain't for Keith.
Dude, this is a rated R comedy, and it's been a pretty good year for rated R comedy. So that's another thing here where the bar's set kind of high. It's only 91 minutes, which is encouraging. So everything going in, you're like, all right, this is going to be pretty good. Trailer's pretty good. On Rotten Tomatoes, 90% from the critics, 89% from the audience. On Metacritic, a 74. So everything is telling you this is one of, if not the best R-rated comedy of the year. And boy, was I let down. This is written by Emma Seligman. She's also the director of this movie. You wouldn't know her from anything. It's also written by Rachel Sennott. She's one of the lead actresses in this movie. I think she was in the movie Bodies, Bodies, Bodies last year, which a lot of people enjoyed. Again, directed by Seligman. Synopsis: two unpopular queer high school students start a fight club to have sex before graduation. So a lot of what you see in this movie has been done before. It's just
Okay.
sort of a queer twist on it. So I get why it gets made, but about halfway through, you're like, I've seen this somewhere. I've seen that somewhere. There's like nothing really new. Go ahead, go.
2 questions. Number
Yeah.
1, is Marshawn Lynch funny in this?
Marshawn Lynch is probably the funniest thing in the movie, but even then, it's like it's one of those movies where everything that's great is in the trailer, and
Okay.
pretty much everything else is a letdown. So this, all right, go. Hands up again. What do you got?
Second question. Are you not the audience for this movie? Not that, like, it should be able
There's
to hit
some
with
of that.
more. Okay.
But I also am I'm not gonna say in touch with the queer community, but I have queer friends. Like I enjoy a lot of these niche comedies like this.
Mhm.
And this really, yeah, I'd like to hear some queer opinions on it, but of course we don't have that here in the program. Maybe we'll get back to you in a couple weeks with that. Goo, this stars Rachel Sennott as PJ, Io Adebri as Josie. She's the girl from The Bear, and you saw her, and I think You Should Leave this past season. She's sort of an up and comer. Also in here, Ruby Cruz as Hazel Callahan, Haven Rose Liu as Isabel, Kaya Gerber as Brittany, and Marshawn Lynch plays Mr. G. Like I said, everything going into this, and you know what this also struck me of, Goo, because it's that niche sort of queer comedy. I think people are afraid to say they didn't like it because it's like filling a void. There's not
Yeah.
many queer movies.
Mhm.
So I think people are afraid to say they didn't like it because I didn't like this movie. I didn't hate it, but I didn't like it. And maybe it's an expectations thing. And on top of it, like I mentioned, this has been a pretty damn good year for R-rated comedies.
I agree.
You really liked what the hell's the name of that movie?
Joyride.
Joyride. I really like No Hard Feelings. I have them actually both pretty similarly rated, but those are two of the better R-rated comedies we've seen in the last few years. And this falls well short of those two movies. It like
Okay.
going in, you would have thought this had a chance to be the best R-rated movie of the year, maybe best comedy of the year. And ultimately it's mostly lazy, pretty unfunny. There's like a few, but no like LOLs. So other than like it being a queer story, there's nothing legitimately new in here or innovative. It just was really disappointing. So I have this at 23 hot dogs.
Ooh.
My number 35 movie of 2023. It's just above it is like Knock at the Cabin, The Little Mermaid, Rise of the Beasts, movies that just weren't that good, but I didn't hate. Just below it is Asteroid City, another movie that was a pretty big disappointment this year for me. So I guess this is the disappointment range. And I don't know, you know, if I'm totally off base, someone please tweet at me, but I have a hard time seeing someone loving this movie. So the 90-89 really threw me off.
Now let's go on to another R-rated comedy. We are in quite a stretch, and that is Strays.
Strays. I'll tell you what, Strays really strayed far from the 40 dog rating here, Goo. This
Nailed
is
it.
currently streaming on Peacock. It is a rated R comedy, again, with a runtime of 93 minutes, just over an hour and a half. So sort of that sweet spot, especially for R-rated comedies. On Rotten Tomatoes, 53% from the critics, 69%
Nice.
from the audience. Now, this is hard to understand for the opposite reason. This movie's not good. I understand the 69% from the audience. The critics at 53%. This struck me after viewing as like a 20% from the critics.
This movie fucking sucks.
See, I don't outright hate it the way you do, but I did not enjoy it.
This movie is so void of comedy. This movie is like a child wrote it. This thing is not funny at all, and everyone involved should be embarrassed.
A 54 on Metacritic is pretty high for an R-rated comedy that you or I didn't like. I would have thought, again, this was 20%, maybe in the 30s on Metacritic based on what I watched. Now, I don't know, like, I don't really know what the critics are seeing in this to say, oh, this is pretty good. I recommend this. And again, it's only 53%, but that's close enough to like almost being the tipped over popcorn. 60% would have said, hey, this is all right.
Oh, what do dogs do? I think they shit a lot. They hump. Can we do that for 90 minutes?
This movie's
All right,
lazy.
yeah.
The definition of lazy. That's for sure.
Yes.
And Goo, this got teased. It's on like the movie poster from the humans who brought you Cocaine Bear in 21 Jump Street. Now, number one, I don't know if I would brag about Cocaine Bear so quickly, but 21 Jump Street is legit. One of the better comedies of the last 12, 15 years. So,
Cocaine Bear compared to this is like, here's looking at you, kid. Or the fuck that movie's Casablanca.
but let me ask you, Goo, how
Yeah.
they can claim that when this movie is written by Dan Peralt. He's a former writer for Screen Junkies and Honest Trailers, two things we've all liked for the last 15 years. He also created American Vandal on Netflix,
which I loved. The
pretty
first
good
season.
series. Yeah. So I don't know when went astray here. Goo.
I get it.
You see there? Title of the
Yeah.
movie there, Goo.
Yeah.
This is directed by Josh Greenbaum, and this should have been my red flag here. He's done a bunch of New Girl, but he directed Barb and Star Go to Vista Del Mar, which is one of my least favorite movies ever. So that should have been, I shouldn't have watched this movie, but Will Ferrell's attached to it, R-rated, so it wrote me in. But again, Goo, with those two that I just talked about, and none of them being related to Cocaine Bear or 21 Jump Street, how the fuck are they claiming that this is from the humans who made Cocaine Bear and 21 Jump Street?
Dogs have red penises. You know that?
Synopsis of this movie, Goo. An abandoned dog teams up with other strays to get revenge on his former owner. This stars Will Ferrell as Reggie, a dog, Jamie Foxx as Bug, a dog,
Stop.
Isla
Stop
Fisher,
saying a dog.
Maggie, also a dog.
We know they're all dogs.
Randall Park as Hunter, the fourth dog in the crew. And then Goo, Will Forte as Doug, Reggie's owner. Even Will Forte was not that funny in a role that he should have been fucking hysterical in.
Yeah, I hated this. I hated every minute of it.
There's really not much to say, honestly, other than what Goose. I'll just add, I didn't hate it, but it's incredibly lazy, and it does not capitalize on the R rating at all. It's very lazy.
Not only did I not laugh at this movie, I didn't even chuckle once.
I got a few chuckles. I must admit, I got
that's
a few
because you're
chuckles.
stupid. That's because you're an idiot.
Never claimed to be smart. I gave this 20 hot dogs, Goo. 50%. Number 38 movie of 2023 for me. Right now, I only have 2 movies lower than this on the year.
I dislike this so much that I didn't even put a hot dog score to it. I just put it at the bottom of my list.
It's your least favorite of the year?
Yes.
Have you seen We Have a Ghost yet? You gotta.
I haven't seen We Have a Ghost
yet. That movie
yet.
is fucking horrible. That movie's worse than this movie.
But I'll probably like that because it's so stupid and bad.
That movie's really bad. I forget what the other movie I have underneath. Oh, we'll talk about this in our next. What have you been watching? The other movie I have lower than this, and I want you to watch it because of your reaction to this, is Old Dads, the Bill Burr movie. Now that movie was, and I'm the biggest Bill Burr guy there is in the world. That movie is fucking terrible.
I heard
lazier
it's lazy.
than this one.
I heard it's very lazy.
Oh, it's lazier than Strays, Goo. It's a tough watch.
Don't get me triggered right now, Mac. That's a line from the movie, right? I saw the trailer.
It's bad. It's very bad.
Let's move on to another R-rated comedy fresh on the Peacock, and that is Please Don't Destroy The Treasure of Foggy Mountain. 1 hour and 32 minutes, rated R on Rotten Tomatoes. 40% from the critics, 94% from the audience. Metacritic, 49%. Is that good?
Again, for an R-rated comedy made by the video short guys from SNL, 49 on Metacritic, I would say is high. I would have expected 35, 40. So
Thank you for describing them, by the way.
Yes.
The video short guys from SNL. Director Paul Briganti. Writers is Martin
Herlihy.
Is it or just Hurley?
Herlihy.
I've never heard his last name before. John Higgins and Ben Marshall also starring those three. It follows 3 friends who live together and then go on a treasure hunt in the forest of a rumored buried treasure. If you have seen either anything from Lonely Island or from Tim Robinson or from even Derek Comedy, Donald Glover's old comedy troupe.
Yeah.
This is worse.
Okay, so is there anything redeeming about it?
Yes. So there are a couple funny things in here, but like you said, there's nothing really original here. Conan O'Brien is one of their fathers. That's pretty funny. But it's the over-the-top acting that you get, say, in Mystery Team.
Yeah.
And I find those funnier. And maybe if I watch those now, I wouldn't find them as funny. But it's the over the top comedy, the recurring jokes, and like I'm not the biggest fan of these three to begin with, but this is solid enough to not say it's bad, but it's almost just like imitation of the other three. Like they do things in here that you might find funny, but then you sit back and go, that's a Tim Robinson thing. And if he did it, it'd be funnier.
So we started off this podcast talking about how good of a year it's been for R-rated comedies, and we just gave three pretty bad ones.
We just fucking ruined ourselves.
We
are such hypocrites.
You know, a lot of it is I love an R-rated comedy. When it hits right, there's nothing better. However, it becomes a crutch in a moment where you're trying to write funny stuff and you just revert to an R-rated something, a swear, a sex thing. Yeah. And it almost stunts comedy sometimes. So there are versions of these movies that might have been better if they were PG-13 because they would have had to write more creatively. And that's always the line you're towing with an R-rated comedy.
So I would say, because if you have Peacock, go and check this out. If you like their sketches, go and check this out.
Okay. All right.
But not my favorite. I'd probably have it somewhere in like the middle of the pack. I would take No Hard Feelings over it because I think No Hard Feelings was more adventurous, took more chances.
No Hard Feelings wasn't lazy, Goo. I'll tell you that.
Like, I don't love No Hard Feelings. I think there's a 20-minute stretch in that movie that's actually dynamite. But I would take that and the chances that it took over this.
The other thing about No Hard Feelings, even though you're not a Jennifer Lawrence guy, the two main leads in that act really well, which goes a long way. That's also the best part about Joyride is the main characters. They're all well acted. So
agreed. When
you get, Bottoms, it wasn't that Bottoms was poorly acted. Bottoms was just so disappointing. It was, I feel like a 16-year-old could have written Bottoms, and it felt like to me it was going to be a little more complex than it was. So maybe it's an expectations thing, but again, I want anyone that's seen Bottoms, I want you to tweet at me and tell me your opinion, because I would be shocked if you liked that movie a lot.
I mean, tweet at us and give us your opinion on anything, really. But we're all ears.
Actually, that one and this next one, Goo. That's a nice transition right there. Goo.
Yeah.
The Creator. Up next is The Creator. Right now, this is only video on demand, and you got to buy it. You can't rent it right now. So
those fat cats in Hollywood just taking our money.
This will be a good tease for when it is rentable in a couple weeks, because this is another one I actually want you to watch. I want to have a conversation about this, maybe a longer conversation next time.
Maybe in the awards. Our awards are coming up fast and furious.
There actually is one award-worthy thing in here that I'll get to in a few.
Okay.
This is a PG-13 action, adventure, and drama. It didn't list sci-fi, but this is very sci-fi. 133 minutes, so 2 hours and 13. On Rotten Tomatoes, this is that middling. I think everyone's confused. 66% from the critics, 76 from the audience. So not bad, but also not good.
How do you feel about this movie? I'm just so fucking confused.
On Metacritic, this has a 63. So again, in that range where it's not bad, but they're not really recommending it to you. This is written by Gareth Edwards, his first writing credit since 2010, a movie called Monsters, and also Chris White's Goo. This is a career that you're really gonna like. He wrote Ants, Nutty Professor 2, The Clumps.
Stop.
About a boy.
I'm in right there. You had me at Nutty Professor 2 after Ants.
He wrote 2015's Cinderella. He also wrote Rogue One, which we loved, most people loved, and the Pinocchio movie that came out a year or two ago. This is directed by Gareth Edwards, who, of course, directed Rogue One, another great sci-fi movie, and Godzilla. He did 2014's Godzilla. So Gareth Edwards,
you I've touched the sun. I will not write again.
Gareth Edwards is kind of mostly operating in these sci-fi worlds, and I think he's got a penchant for it.
But the Nutty Professor 2 has quite possibly the best fart scene of all time.
That's the Janet Jackson one, right? Or is she in the first one?
Yeah. No, that's the Janet Jackson one. That's when they're in the restaurant and the father starts a big old fire. I know you like fires.
Sure.
Starts a big old fire because he farts on a candle.
Janet Jackson looks so good in this movie. Who's the woman in the first one?
I don't know. I know that Dave Chappelle's in the first one. Are you
We're
talking
gonna
about Dave
have
Chappelle?
someone let us know about that one. Goo, synopsis of The Creator.
Do you want us to do a Nutty Professor podcast? Tweet at us right now and let us know.
You could do that solo.
Smash that subscribe button.
You
Give
could
us
do
a
that
thumbs
solo
up.
and then dress up as me in honor of the Nutty Professor. So it's two people, but it's just Goo doing both, you know?
Would I have to do it all in post, or could I do it all live? I don't
That
know.
would be very, very
Like, I asked you a question, I'm like 3, 2, 1, and then what do you think about this? 3, 2, 1.
It would take you months to edit that episode.
That
Months.
might be something I want to do. I'm not gonna lie.
Goo, synopsis of
What
The
do you think
Creator.
of that fart scene? Bets the bets. It's fine.
That's pretty good. Sounds just like me.
That was me. It wasn't Matt, guys.
Against the backdrop of a war between humans and robots with artificial intelligence, a former soldier finds the secret weapon, a robot in the form of a young child. Now, robot is not really the word for them. They look like humans for the most part. So I don't know what the word is. But
Humanoid?
yeah. Okay, that's a better word. This movie stars John David Washington as Joshua, Madeline Una Voiles as Alfie. This girl just turned 9 years old, so she was 7 or 8 when they shot this. This is her first IMDb credit. This girl was unbelievable. Carried the movie.
Okay.
Carried the movie. She was incredible.
You usually hate children, not only in
know.
movies, but just in general.
This girl was the best part of the movie.
Okay, wow.
Gemma Chan as Maya. Gemma Chan's usually always good. Allison Janney as Colonel Howell. She plays a bad guy, which you didn't really expect that Allison Janney.
A lady colonel?
A lady colonel. A
This
lady
must
bad
be
guy.
sci-fi.
Ken Watanabe as Harun. You might remember him from Inception or many number of other things. Sturgill Simpson, big year for Sturgill Simpson as Drew. He plays Joshua's like old soldier buddy.
It's almost like when they casted this movie, they just picked actors and then said, always good. Like, these are people that are always good.
Let me get to that because I have a massive issue. I really wanted to like this movie. I didn't
read your notes. Go ahead.
I really wanted to like this movie. Wanted to love this movie. This movie looks and feels awesome in the way Rogue One does. The visuals are awesome. You're playing with some cool sci-fi concepts and ideas. However, I really didn't like John David Washington. In fact, I might have hated the performance.
Oh no.
He was so stale, devoid of emotion. This was a poor casting choice. In general, I have liked John David Washington in the past. Can't say I've loved him, but he hasn't bothered me.
Mac loves ballers.
Dude, he was so bad in this. And I like a better performance in that role would have catapulted this movie up like 3 or 4 or 5 dogs. Like that's how much it brought it down. Because it's him and the young girl for 80% of this movie. It really, and especially like the young girl's acting her ass off, and JDW is just, he's a piece of cardboard. It bothered the shit out of me. And once again, I really want to underscore that the child actor was incredible.
Okay.
If this movie was a little bit better, judging off those critic scores, I think she would have gotten Oscar consideration. That's how good she was. She was really fucking good. Additionally, it's in that weird realm of at 133 minutes, which is not a short movie.
Mm-hmm.
I actually felt like it should have been longer. We needed some more time in the sci-fi world, that atmosphere. We need to play around with that a little more. And we also, because the story is kind of heavy-handed, we needed a little bit more of the emotional part of the story. Because by the end, it doesn't quite hit the way you want it to. It's a nice conclusion, but it doesn't hit the way it probably could have. So I think we needed more time with both of those things, because the story of the movie is a nice sort of like 3-headed battle. It's an intriguing story. So I have this at 32 hot dogs, number 15 of 2023. Just above it is No Hard Feelings, Joyride. Just below it is Scream 6, Elemental, They Clone Tyrone, TMNT, Mutant Mayhem. And full disclosure, I gave all of those movie 32 hot dogs. It's in this range. You can kind of adjust those as you see fit. But this is sort of in that tier where I really liked most of the movie, but it had 1 or 2 things that like really bothered the shit out of me, and it just didn't reach its full potential. All of those movies. Like I've been thinking about this movie a lot since I saw it, which is what I don't usually say about a 32 dogger. Like this movie felt like ultimately at the end, if it had a better main performance, it's like 35, 36. That the main performance just fucking killed it. It's leaving like a sour taste in my mouth. Now the script's not perfect either. It could have been a little more concise, or like I said, spent more time. But to me, the main thing that drags us down is John David Washington.
Now let's go to Disney's latest question mark. Have they done another one since? Because they fucking shit these out. But
Wish
live action
was came
remake.
out. Oh,
That's
okay.
not a live action remake.
Well, you said it after I said that.
How about you let me finish my sentence, Mac?
The Little Mermaid. The Little Mermaid.
Before you say anything else, King Triton is just slanging dick all over the world.
He's got 7 daughters for the 7 seasons.
And they're all of different nationalities.
Love that. Love that for him. Taste a little bit of everything. He knows it. He gets it.
Taste the rainbow.
This is on Disney Plus. It is a rated PG. I don't even know what you would. I didn't put the genre, so that's on me. 135 minutes, so 2 hours and 15 minutes. It's not short. It's not short at all.
Mm-hmm.
Rotten Tomatoes, 67% from the critics, 94% from the audience, which are interesting scores. On Metacritic of 59. That feels
Sure
really
are.
right.
You're right.
This is written by David McGee. You might know him from Finding Neverland, Life of Pi, Mary Poppins Returns, and A Man Called Otto. So pretty.
I also
accomplished
know
writer.
his brothers Wendell and Willie.
This is based, of course, on the story by Hans Christian Andersen and the animated screenplay by John Musker and Ron Clements. This is directed by Rob Marshall, who has a penchant for musicals. You would know him from Chicago, Memoirs of a Geisha, Pirates, On Stranger Tides, Into the Woods, and Mary Poppins Returns. So he's pretty accomplished director at this point. Synopsis: a young mermaid makes a deal with a sea witch to trade her beautiful voice for human legs so she can discover the world above water and impress a prince. This stars Halle Bailey as Ariel, Jonah Hauer-King as Eric, Melissa McCarthy as Ursula, Javier Bardem as King Triton, Daveed Diggs as Sebastian, who I loved, Jacob Tremblay as Flounder was pretty good, Awkwafina as Scuttle didn't bother me, so
I'll leave it stunk. Oh, she stunk.
But as Scuttle, that's sort of what you're getting in Scuttle, so I accepted it for what it was. I thought Halle Bailey as Ariel was great, by the way. She carried the majority of this film.
You know what would have been a great prank in this movie is when Halle Bailey, when she asked Ursula, played by Melissa McCarthy, who actually was not bad as Ursula's.
This is the type of role that she can get into because it's an outlandish role.
It would have been a great prank if when she asked for human legs, then she looked down and she goes, I still have fish to tell ya.
Dude, I actually came away from this movie and I heard not so great things going into it.
Yeah.
I came away thinking the first 60 to 75% was pretty good.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. Not great, but pretty good, watchable. And then the last like 30, 40 minutes, pretty bad.
Everything
really
with
nosedive.
the final battle and leading up to the final battle.
Bad, gross.
Looked horrible, right?
Yeah.
It hurt my eyes. And I was watching it on a
wasn't good.
plane, the best way to watch a movie.
I too watched it on an aeroplane. That's really like, it's hard to say anything new about the Little Mermaid, but that's my takeaway. If you had made this shorter, so at 2 hours and 15 minutes, if you got this down to an hour 50, you probably have a pretty darn good movie. And even at that, those Rotten Tomato scores are crazy.
Yeah.
I don't know how this got 94% from the audience. Honestly, it doesn't deserve it.
But I found it quite enjoyable for the most part.
For the most part,
I liked a lot of
For the
it.
most part.
Granted, I will say this: I did skip most of the songs.
The music wasn't great.
Okay.
Not great. Which is, I mean, it's not like The Little Mermaid is the best musical, anyways, from Disney. So you weren't expecting much out of it. But again, like this was right there. This was like bordering 28, 30 dogs for me as we were going through.
Mhm.
And then the last 30 minutes put it down. It
So-
might float. I got it at 24 hot dogs, Goo.
Might float.
It's
I
number
get it.
34
I
of
get it.
2023 for me here.
So I do have it at 28 hot dogs. I did really enjoy the, first 90-ish minutes of this movie.
Okay.
I would definitely take Aladdin over it. Aladdin, I think, is a better
easily.
live action one.
Yeah.
And then this and The Lion King back and forth. I might take this. I like the human
Lion King was
element.
much better.
I don't like how they're animals and they can't emote.
Lion King was much better.
The best scene in The Lion King is the beetle pushing the pile of poop.
Lion King just did what the original one did, and it worked. Now, it's not as good, but it's better than this.
And then I have it, I don't know, whatever on the year. It's somewhere in there.
Let's get into Maxac.
And Maxac could be anything. It could be a boat. And this week,
What have you been watching lately? Keep it short, tell me right now.
it's the exact same thing we just did this episode.
It could be anything. It could be a box.
Mac, I know I brought this up many of times on the show, but I have a 3-year-old son who is beginning to consume media and, comprehend what's going on. So it is the holiday season, whoop-de-doo, hibbity-dop, and I have been showing him some, I would deem Christmas classics.
Okay. All right. What do you got on
Getting
the
a
board here?
gauge on how he feels about
How are you
these
doing? Are
things.
you doing like one every couple of days? Like what's your plan?
It depends on how much time we have at night,
Okay.
if it's planned out well. And actually, I'll tell you right now, we showed him Elf, and he's never sat through an entire live-action movie. Watched the whole thing. He loved it.
Love that. Love
Yep.
that. He's a good one.
You know what his favorite scene was?
What?
When Buddy the Elf threw open the trash can. Because he went to New York one time, and he threw up too.
Relatable. Yeah.
Relatable.
So, Goo, I might have told you this before.
Yeah.
One of my college roommates was from New York, just outside of the city, but knew the city pretty well.
Yeah.
And his 2 favorite moments in the movie are when Buddy almost gets hit by the cab. It kills him because it's like actually a thing that happens every day in New York City.
And that was unscripted too.
Was it really?
Speaking of fun facts, before we go any further, save your Elf thoughts because we'll have a full Elf podcast at the end of next week. And we'll be doing this episode from the Alamo Draft House down the sea.
Wow. How about that for a tease right there?
That's right.
Big
So
time.
watch it on YouTube. It's going to look beautiful.
Big time Timmy Jim.
Big time Timmy Jin. Big time. Let's go on to a movie that, not really a movie. It's 45 minutes long. You can watch it on YouTube. And my kid loves this. I love it as well. It might be the most ambitious crossover of all time until we get to Cartoon All-Stars to the rescue. And that is Muppet Family Christmas from 1987. Just everything about this. This is great family fun.
It's a great family movie. I'll give you that.
Muppets, Fraggles, Sesame Street. You have a pre-Rizzo voiced turkey going nose to nose with Gonzo fighting over a chicken. I'm sorry, are you frozen?
No,
okay.
I thought you were going to go on a tangent.
I will say this, though, is that Kermit's nephew or son, the little frog that's there,
Yeah.
it's a fucking wiener. He stinks. Speaking of things that I don't quite understand, and that is 1965's A Charlie Brown Christmas. I don't get it.
I'll echo your thought here on Charlie Brown in general. I don't get it. Charlie Brown, well, I should say Woodstock and Snoopy were like my grandfather's favorite characters.
Yeah.
I sort of get it, but Charlie Brown in general, don't really get it.
Number one, my son loved this. So credit to him. He's more complex than I am, I guess.
Is this how bored people were in the 60s that this was like awesome?
This is 27 minutes of Charlie whining. Just nonstop about the commercialism of Christmas.
This is like
the meaning of Christmas.
I think what Caillou is to our generation, that's what Charlie Brown is, just a whiny fuck.
Linus is a loser.
Yes, confirmed.
And then, like, do I need more of the backstory? Why are all these kids so mean to Charlie Brown? They all call him dumb. They all call him an idiot just for buying a tree. Like, what is happening in this?
Tough message for the kids at home.
Yeah. And then I even watched, because my son loved this one.
Yeah.
I watched the follow-up, the sequel to this, the spiritual sequel. I don't know. But it's Christmas Again, Charlie Brown from 1992. And it seems like the people that wrote this one didn't see the one from 1965. The character motives make no sense.
Well, it's fucking 27 years later.
There was one part in that, though, where Snoopy took a candy cane and he danced like he had a cane. So that's good.
Snoopy and Woodstock might be the two best characters, and they're in Charlie Brown, maybe 5% of it, 10% of it. That's it. You get little vignettes off to the side.
Let's move on to 1996. And this just popped up on my Paramount Plus as my son was eating breakfast. I'm like, yeah, you can watch this. And that is Sonic's Christmas special from 1996.
I've never heard of it.
This thing sucks.
Really? Terrible,
Yes.
huh?
It's crass animation. It is just slapped together. The voiceover work, the writing, none of it. It all feels cheap and
This is
half-assed.
probably right around where the animated series came out. I'm
This is
guessing.
the animated series, yes.
Okay. All
and
right.
this is the sillier one. I think there's 2 of them, but whatever. They're both voiced by Urkel. And why is Sonic in this episode, in this special,
Mhm.
riding a bike and
'Cause it's cool.
snowboarding?
Those things are cool.
I get it, but he runs fast.
Yeah, but he could still enjoy a nice snowboarding experience.
Why is he slowing himself? He's on a mission. Why is he slowing himself down by snowboarding?
I don't think. Well, I haven't seen the property, so I don't know what his goal is. But maybe he's just enjoying a nice.
His
leisure
objection is to
snowboard.
save Santa. Robotnik creates a robot Santa, and he kidnaps regular Santa.
Hear me out.
Yeah.
Maybe he can't run in snow. He doesn't have snowshoes.
Are you saying I wasn't paying attention enough to the fucking plot of this show?
They might have explained it.
There's a good chance that happened. Also, Sonic never once said, "Did I do that?"
Snapped his suspenders.
Fucking idiot. This thing stunk. I hated it. You know what doesn't stink? You know what is great?
Yeah.
Season 2, episode 14 from 1992, Rugrats, The Santa Experience. Angelica is a bad kid. And she
She's
even
a really
says
bad
it.
guy.
She is talking to herself in the corner and she's like, "Cynthia, I'm so bad. I'm so bad, Cynthia." She learns her lesson though, because bad kids don't get gifts, they get coal.
Did Raffi watch this one as well?
Raffi has watched it several times now.
So he's in on the Rugrats. I like
He's
that.
in, well, specifically on this episode.
Sure,
he likes
sure.
it because Santa shows up at the end. Don't want to
Yep.
spoil nothing, but Santa does show up at the end. And Angelica does get her Cynthia dream house with the jacuzzi and satellite television. But when she opens the garage, little piece of coal. Little piece of coal.
It doesn't really send a message though if you got what you wanted.
Also, Charlotte in this episode, electric.
Oh yeah.
Charlotte, she's on her cell phone for 15 straight minutes.
And
she's
92, huh?
She's talking in the background of the scene for 15 straight minutes.
I guess that makes sense though. The wealthy folks in 92 probably did have a cell phone.
And it's just her talking herself up too for 15 about, being a powerful woman.
Do you remember the first time you saw a cellular device?
Saved by the Bell.
No, I mean in real life.
No, I've seen beepers. I remember like a beeper. My cousin had a beeper.
Yeah, everyone had beepers. I remember my uncle, this must have been 97, had a car phone. So it was like a cell phone, but it was like mounted in the car. I thought it was the coolest fucking thing ever.
The babies also set a trap to catch Santa, but what happens is they catch Chaz dressed as Santa. Chaz, Chucky too? Fucking Wiener family. Chucky, it's just me.
Next time your wife wakes up with her hair all frazzly, tell her she looks like Chucky.
Just both of them just whining constantly. Drew's pretty good too. I like Angelica's entire family. I like Drew. Also, the parents, once again, same age as us. So feel
They're
good about
34?
that. 33.
Wow, we're older than the Rugrats.
We're older than the parents on. And actually, I really like the parents on the Rugrats because it seems like they're doing everything for their children, but they're just doing it for themselves.
Yeah,
and
they get to hang out. That's why all the kids are hanging out.
That makes me think of myself once again. Also, another electric character. I'm sorry to hang myself up on this episode,
Sure,
but
glad you're
this is a
reviewing
great
so long.
episode of
Yeah.
Nickelodeon television.
You're talking more about this than any of the movies we just talked about.
Grandpa Lou, fucking amazing in this. He tosses out 2 or 3 lines that are just gangbusters. One of them, so they are getting a cabin for all of them to stay at for Christmas. And they're like, "I'll call the travel service. I'll do this. I'll do this." And then Grandpa goes, "I'll drink some eggnog and fall asleep on the couch." Classic.
Goo, I'm trying to think. That doesn't make me feel that old thinking about it. Older than the Rugrats parents are the same age. I always feel old watching Friends and thinking about how old they were in season 1 of Friends. What are they supposed to be, 25? Something in season 1 of Friends? That makes me feel old.
I think when I first felt old was when I realized that I was older than the youngest athlete in the NFL.
Oh, so you felt old at 21?
Somewhere around there. When I realized that Cam Newton was younger than me, I'm like, fuck.
I
I
think
should
we'll
probably
start to
buy a
feel-
house or something.
I think the next thing for us feeling old is then when we're older than every athlete, every professional athlete. Brady was saving a lot of folks.
Yeah.
We're getting up there though. Once we get 38, there's only going to be like an NFL kicker younger than us.
And then finally, an episode that my son really couldn't sit through because, well, it is about someone trying to get someone a Secret Santa gift, and that is reuniting him with his daughter, who he hasn't seen in 2 decades because of war. And that is the Hey Arnold Christmas special, where Arnold gets Mr. Huynh as a Secret Santa. And what he tries to do is, like I just said, reunite him with his daughter that
It's a
were
great episode.
separated. It's an amazing episode. Did I
Yeah.
cry? I fucking cried again.
I believe you. I believe you.
Yep. By the end of the episode, don't want to spoil nothing, but yes, he does get Mr. Huynh back with his daughter. I believe her name is Mai, I want to say.
Okay.
The biggest distraction in this episode, and I don't remember this from like later episodes, Helga's lisp is insane.
I guess she's got a slight one. I don't recall her having a massive one though.
Watch this episode. You'll be like, what is happening with these characters? I don't remember this.
Yeah, I haven't seen an episode of Hey Arnold in quite some time.
Paramount Plus. You have great jokes from Gerald, who gets all of his family ties.
What do you do these days for family gifts? Does your family do like
We don't do gifts anymore.
Yeah, that's smart. That's the way to do it. At a certain age, you don't need anything. We talked about this the other day. You get yourself what you want.
Well, no. So we do gifts for my parents.
Sure.
And
yeah.
we've been so good at getting them gifts the last like 3 or 4 years that we are setting ourselves up for failure this
For
year.
sure. Bill's going to be disappointed this year.
We got Bill a fucking 75-inch television last year.
Yeah, what are you going to do? An 85 this year? Like, what?
I bought him an iPad.
Oh, that's pretty good.
That's not bad, right?
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Hopefully he's not watching this, even though I already gave it to him. And then my mom, we have gotten her like 2 years ago because she was working from home. And she was working in like the dining room.
Mhm.
I would sneak upstairs every single night, and I was doing demo, painting, and everything else. I was making her a home office. And then on Christmas Day,
How did she not notice?
I was very, very sneaky.
Yeah, but she
And
never
then-
just opened the door.
No. And then on Christmas Day, I brought her upstairs, and she's like, "How did you build an entire office in here?" And I'm like,
Was
That
it
is
in
sneaky.
whose room is it? Was it formerly?
Elena's old room.
Okay. Is your room still there?
Yes, my room is still there. My brother has my old room.
Yeah.
My brother's old room is now filled with just garbage. It's just a storage room. My parents do the worst job with, utilizing the square footage of the house. It's just all storage rooms.
Yeah, I love that.
No, it's not. We might have to call A&E in there soon. Is that the station has hoarders?
Yeah, I think so.
We have to call them up soon because real.
I'll tell you what. Hoarders is a show. It's rare to make me uncomfortable. That
Mhm.
show makes me very uncomfortable. Very uncomfortable.
So I recommend out of these, we'll talk about Elf next week. Muppet Family Christmas, yes. Charlie Brown Christmas, no. And come right at me. I don't care. I don't like it. I don't like it one bit. It's not entertaining to me. It's like it's loose, gobbledygook animation. I don't like it.
It's a technical term.
Sonic Christmas is terrible. I hate it so much.
Better or worse than Charlie Brown?
Charlie Brown's better.
Okay.
Charlie Brown is better. And then top of the list. Actually, no. Hey Arnold's probably the best one there. But Rugrats, I love it.
What would Raffi have number one?
Rugrats. No, Muppet Family Christmas. He loves it.
Okay. All right. I like that.
There's a part of the Muppet Family Christmas where Kermit's wiener nephew is singing Jingle Bells in a very soft tone. And then Electric Mayhem comes in and Jingle Bell rocks it.
Love that.
Yeah.
Love
Also, the first appearance of Muppet Babies.
it. Muppet Babies.
Where can you find us, Mac? That's my new thing every episode.
You can find us on Twitter and Instagram at Mac and Goo Podcast. Every other platform, we are Mac ampersand Goo. It's Mac Shift 7 Goo. That includes Facebook, Stitcher, TuneIn, Castbox, Spreaker, Google Play, iHeartRadio. We are on Spotify. Spotify Wrapped came out, Goo. I was super excited about that.
Wow.
More importantly, we are on Apple Podcasts. Get on there, rate, review, subscribe, 5 stars. If you do that, we'll get you a free Mac and Goo t-shirt from the folks over at Watertown Sportswear. That's Watertown Sportswear on 34 Mount Auburn Street in Watertown. WatertownSportswear.com, expert screen printing and embroidery.
tpublic.com.
Merch.
You're all doing a great job right now. Over Black Friday, Cyber Monday, you all went nuts and bought. I think you should leave stuff. So thank you. You are lining my pockets. Check us out start of next week, news dump. There is
Yep.
some great Bob Iger blame game going around that I just want to just get in there. He's amazing right now. Between him, who else was going crazy? Zack Snyder talking all sorts of nonsense right now. So
I would fight Zack Snyder. I think he's moved above Ryan Johnson for me.
it was a curious move. He was like, I don't know why people don't want to work with Amber Heard. Where have you been?
He sucks. He's genuinely not likable. He hasn't
like
said or done anything redeemable in years. Years. We all felt really bad for when that happened with his daughter.
Of course.
So that bought him a little bit of grace period. You remove that. It's been 10 years since he's made something I liked.
I mean, I'm a huge Snyder fan. I'm the Snyder fan of this podcast. I love the fact that he said he would do a DC movie if it was the Dark Knight.
You're a pushover.
Returns.
You're an apologist because you dove right back in on Ryan Johnson immediately too.
I'm a huge fan of him saying that he would do Daredevil if asked.
Zack Snyder,
big Zack Snyder fan.
Well, I'm not going to say because Scorsese hasn't changed, but what Scorsese does, he is better than Zack Snyder. A lot of filmmakers adapt and change and innovate and make new technologies. I'm thinking of Peter Jackson. I'm thinking of James Cameron, as someone who is kind of on my shit list too. But at least they're doing new things. Zack Snyder has done the same fucking thing, same techniques for 20 years. And it worked. It was cool 20 years ago. 300 was cool fucking 16 years ago. It's not cool. That stuff now. That stuff is not cool anymore. Do something new.
I think my favorite directors tell me to go fuck myself. And that if I don't like what they're doing, I'm stupid. I kind of respect that.
I respect it. Doesn't mean I'm going to like you.
Ridley Scott and James Cameron. You guys are my two favorite.
Listen, I think James Cameron's a moron, but at least he's an innovator. He's using and creating tools that other people can now use, like Peter Jackson's done.
Mm-hmm.
But man, Zack Snyder's been using the same shit for 20 years. Do something new, Bray.
I think he goes by Jim Cameron, doesn't he?
You might.
Jimmy John Cameron. All right, that'll do it for this episode. Check us out next week. Tuesdays are Cruise Days. I abuse kangaroos.
Bye.
Please flip the cassette over to side B to continue the adventure.
I shouldn't have done that. I look so old.
One of
That was
these
a bad
days,
idea.
you might have to explain the I abuse kangaroos thing. That's from like 5 years ago, 6 years ago.
We're still recording right now. I can just do it right now. A little post Mac and Goo credit here. That is from when I filled in for Davey in the It episode of Dork.
Oh, so that's 2017, I think, right?
2017.
6 years ago.
And WEEI shits out a transcript of their
An
podcast
AI
after.
generated transcript
Yes.
of the recording.
And I don't know. I'm so much of a fucking mushmouth that it said that I said I abuse kangaroos. So that's just my catchphrase now.
Yeah, towards the end of the episode, for whatever reason, you could go in and see that it had Goose saying, I abuse kangaroos. There's no phrase even like that. I don't even know. It was one of the funniest things ever. Like, what the fuck?
All right, bye.
Bye.